Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Your Spiritual Journey. This is Dr. Bob, and this is the space and the place where we talk about things important to your soul. As always, we ask you to like us, leave comments, and maybe even support us on Patreon. All of that helps keep us on the air. So today's guest, I feel like it's an honor to be in his presence. He is what I would call an ascended master, but we'll get into the idea of master because Joe has a very interesting take on what it means when somebody says they're a master. So Joseph Martin is an ordained reverend, a veteran, and an author of the Ascension Guide series. He's certified in QHHT, which is the quantum healing hypnosis technique that was espoused by Dolores Cannon. He leads profound hypnosis sessions to reconnect folks with their highest self, past lives, and healing. He also practices Reiki, clearing energy blocks and lifting vibration. Through Ascension Healings, he is dedicated to guiding souls upward, one session, one book, one breath at a time. So, Joe, welcome.
Thank you so much.
It is an honor to have you with us. Joe just happens to live in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, which is very close to where we're doing this recording.
Yeah.
I was mentioning to Joe that something that I found interesting was that I was sitting in Starbucks in Monroeville reading his book, not too far from where he lives. And at that time, it was just the day after when I had my first Reiki experience where I was doing Reiki on somebody. And I discovered that I could feel what their issue was.
Oh, wow.
And that I knew that that person had had a very violent sexual trauma in their early years, and they were holding that throughout their body.
Mm.
And I have to say that I was surprised myself because I had been doing Reiki for a number of years, but never really to the point where I could feel exactly what the issue was and then have the person express it to me. Because I wasn't going to bring it up. I just said, I feel some trauma in your body, and let her tell me what that trauma was about. But it just so connected me to what I was reading in your book at the time and the Reiki that you and your wife were doing.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to stop here with all my talk and introduction. And Joe, open it up to you to discuss your spiritual journey from childhood till now, and then we'll get into some questions.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you for the kind introduction. I appreciate that. Don't know if I would consider myself an ascended master, but I appreciate the kind words. So my spiritual journey really started around 2012, 2013, kind of when they talk about the shift that started to happen back around that time. An unusual event that sort of propelled me towards the spiritual was actually the Boston Marathon bombing. I just kind of watched the event unfold and something felt off to me. It felt, I won't go into the conspiracy side of things, but it felt off to me, which led me down a rabbit hole of all the different conspiracies in the world. Now, I've been a musician since I was 15 years old. I play guitar, bass, piano, all those different things. And one of the conspiracies that I came across was the tuning of instruments. Now, I don't know, there's a lot of different reasons why, or supposed conspiracies why they changed it, but I was like, this is one I can check out myself and see if there's something to it. So the tuning in music that we listen to on a day-to-day basis is 440 hertz. So the conspiracy was that it used to be tuned to 432 hertz. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with solfeggio tones, but essentially any number that adds up to 3, 6, or 9. So, 4 plus 3 plus 2 equals 9. 4 plus 4 plus 0 equals 8. So it's a dissonant harmonic for us. And so when I tuned my guitar to that 432 hertz, I could feel the resonance just change immediately. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't care what the conspiracy is, but I know that this is something that I can test and it was real. So since then, I sort of was compelled to start, meditating and getting into understanding frequency and vibration and those sorts of things. And through that journey, I've had some interesting experiences through meditation, which looking back, it was sort of a mediumship experience where I was tapping into people that I should say it was a singular person. And we had some experiences in our house where it would be cold right here, but not right here, and water would turn on. And after that experience, all of those things went away. And so that kind of led me towards my I have an insatiable thirst for knowledge. And so
Okay.
once I get interested in something, it kind of propels me in that direction. So, I meditated over the next few years, got interested, read as many books and things that I could find. And in 2021 is when everything really changed. And so, to back up just a little bit, my wife, she had a couple near death experiences. And through that, she started opening up to like channeling and finding different sources like that. And through that also, she kind of felt a push, partially by me, to do Reiki, and she wasn't into it, she didn't know anything about it, we were still not quite there yet with that stuff, and finally, after a while, she decided that she was gonna go through with it, so through the synchronicities that are mentioned in the book, she gets guided to, a particular, administrator of Reiki who does, attunements and that sort of thing. Now, this was all during COVID, so everything was virtual. So she didn't actually get to meet her Reiki master until over a year later. And that's when we went and they had a little crystal convention, whatever. We went to go say everything. And I went to go meet her Reiki master and I said, "You don't do past life regressions, do you?" She's like, "Not really, but we can do it if you want." I was like, "Let's do it." So in I think it was July 21st, 2021, somewhere around there. I went to do my first past life regression. I went to a couple different past lives. And then through that experience, my guardian angel came through and started channeling these messages, told us they wanted to write a book and had a lot of messages for the world to share about this ascension process, where we're going, where we're headed, all that sort of thing. And a lot of practical advice on how we can help our vibration, heal ourselves, that sort of thing. And so through that experience, towards the end, of those 10 sessions, Jesus came through, gave me the ability to do the Reiki energy healing, whatever you want to call it. So I've never actually taken a class or had an attunement in that sense, but I think
Yeah.
it's still valid.
Okay.
And then since then, it was a lot of on the job training and just kind of learning through them guiding me. When I say they, I'm talking about my spirit team. And they would guide me through different experiences with Reiki where lots of different interesting things happened.
Yeah.
and and then through that same time, I got really fascinated with hypnosis because I saw what it did for me and how well it helped my life. And so I thought if I could help other people do the same sort of thing. So I kind of just when I would listen to when I was being induced, I would pay attention to what she was saying and I would just kind of memorize the script and kind of would tweak it to my own whatever, practice on whoever would let me at the time. And then after time, we found Dolores Cannon, who developed the QHHT method, and I just fell in love with her technique. And the things that were coming through in her books were so similar to what I was experiencing. And the healings that she was able to provide in those sessions to a lot of people was just fascinating to me. And so I've just dedicated myself to study and to become the best hypnosis practitioner. At Ascension Healings, we try to find a way to help everybody. We do coaching, we do Reiki, we do the healing, the quantum healing hypnosis, sound bowls. So whatever way that we can offer to somebody, because everybody's at a different stage in their awakening process or their ascension process. And so some people are ready for this, but not that, and vice versa. So we try to have as many tools in the toolbox to help as many people as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So you call your organization Essential Healings?
Ascension Healings.
As, Ascension Healings.
Yes, sir.
I think of them as being essential.
Yeah, I guess one
No.
and the same, huh?
Okay, just to take you back a little bit, uh, you grew up where?
I grew up in California. I was born in Napa, and then I grew up in a town called Sonora. Grew up there till I was 19 when I joined the military, and then have lived in Pennsylvania since I exited the military in 2007.
Okay. So your parents raised you in any particular spiritual or religious tradition?
I would say somewhat Christian, perhaps, but my mom never forced it on us. She never made us go to church. My dad wasn't really into any of it like that. And I went to church a couple of times when I was a kid. I felt very repelled by it. The
Mm,
message didn't line up with me.
yeah.
There was a lot of contradictions, and I had a lot of questions that was, answered with, "You just got to have faith," and it's like, well, I need more than that.
Yeah.
I need to know why. I'm a why guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And siblings?
I have a younger sister. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we learned about her in your book a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yes.
Okay, so you went in the military. What branch?
I was in the army.
Okay. Uh, I know when I was stationed in Korea. Where were you stationed?
I was also in Korea.
Oh,
I was in Tongdaeshan and oh my gosh, I can't think of the other place.
yeah.
Camp Casey and Camp Stanley. So
Ta
one was up by the DMZ and one a little bit.
yeah, I was in Taegu.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, all right. So, and I guess I have to ask, what was your MOS in the military?
I
In
was a
the
13 Romeo, so firefinder radar for field artillery. So
okay.
yeah, that was interesting. MOS.
All right. So you ended up in Pennsylvania after you got out of the service. How did that occur?
Well, due to a ex now relationship, we had met while I was in the military. She was from Pittsburgh, and when I got out, it was like, well, we either end this or I move there. So I decided to move here, which ended up being a great decision. The first time I came to Pittsburgh, I just fell in love. I felt like it was home. Everything about it was beautiful. And other than we don't get enough sunshine, but I won't complain. uh,
Yeah, especially this week. Not much sunshine.
I know, right? It's May, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so this book that we have on display here is part two of a three-part series.
Yes.
So let's go back to book one
Okay.
first. How did that come about? I'm assuming you got told that you were going to write a book.
Yes. So when I was doing the past life regression sessions, we ended up doing 10 sessions. They were about 2 to 4 hours each of just channeling.
Mhm.
Archangel Raya is the name of my guardian angel. And through that, they had suggested that we write a book. And so we just documented everything that came through in the sessions. Every session was recorded, and I just transcribed the raw data. The only thing we left out was personal names or identities
Yeah.
of people that were involved. But other than that, it's the raw transcript of everything that came through in the 10 sessions, and then that was the sort of jumping off point to the next part of the, the
Yeah.
chapter, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. And then this book is about a journey. Uh, and I'm curious, I guess, from because I read the book, I have a good sense of what that journey was about and what took place. But I'm curious in terms of, it sort of starts off with that sense that I'm not sure where this is going. I have a sense of where I'm going to stop along the way and who I'm going to help.
Mhm.
Not sure exactly how I'm going to help them, except Reiki's going to be involved. Uh, but then there's also this sense of what am I going to do for money?
Yes.
Who's going to pay for this trip? How is that going to happen? So somewhere I'm picturing, and this piece isn't in this book, so I'm assuming it's in the first book, is that you're no longer employed. Your wife is no longer employed. It's like you got the message. You don't need to do those things to make money. The universe will provide.
Mhm.
So, can you take us through that experience? What took place there?
Sure. So 2021, I lost my job. I used to be a football coach. I used to work with kids with autism as my day job. I had got my master's in sports management. My goal was to coach in the NFL. I wanted to be a
Yeah.
football coach. And then in July 2021, we had that experience, and August 2021 is when I lost my job. They'd kind of prepared us and said it was coming in the book in the channeling session, so I was somewhat
Okay.
ready for it.
All right.
But of course, it's a kind of a life altering event when you lose your career, and then my wife lost her career a couple of months later because of the COVID experiment. And so we were out of jobs, out of our careers. We were and the most frustrating part for me was I kept asking, "Do I need to get a job? Do I need to get a job?" And they would say, "No, no." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, we'll trust." And so when we got the message and how that came about was I was actually performing Reiki on my wife. We, betrayed just to keep ourselves, tip top if we
Mhm.
can. And when I put my hands on people, a lot of times I get visions or messages, whatever it is for people. And I saw a map of the United States, and it was showing a red line going from here in Pennsylvania all the way over to California, where my family's from, and then down to New Mexico, where my dad lived at the time. And then after that, I started to see different family members and friends they looked very distressed and that they needed help. And so I got the idea of like, okay, we got to see this person, this person, this person, and didn't really know much more than that. And so when I come out of the session and I say to my wife, and I'm like, I think we have to go to California like today. And she's like, well, I asked what we were supposed to be doing. And so if that's what came through, that's what we got to do. And
Yeah.
so we didn't leave that day. We had to go get the car inspected. And you see the synchronicities that started that day with our numbers 3, 6, and 9. They have been our guiding light through this whole experience.
Yeah.
And so I went and did that. And we left a couple of days later. But before that, after I got done with the session, I called my mom and I said, this is going to sound weird, but I think we're coming to California like right now. And she's like, oh, why'd you talk to your dad? And I said, no, what's going on? And she's like, well, your sister is being admitted to rehab today. And she had apparently OD'd and rolled a car and some other things that had happened. And so I was like, well, I guess I understand why we're coming out there a little bit more. So we sort of packed up and left on faith. And as I was going through getting ourselves prepared to go, I got the message to document this journey like a journal, essentially, just
Mhm.
every day write about what happens. So the fun part about the book is when you read it, it's the same experience I was having because I wrote everything that day. I didn't retroflect. I didn't go
Yeah.
back and try to write it from memory. I just wrote as things happen. So I don't even know what's coming in the next page or the next chapter. So it kind of unfolds the same for us as it does for
Yeah.
the readers. So that part was kind of fun to be able to experience and have that journey there too.
Yeah. And by the way, it does make for a great read because I felt like I was experiencing it along with you without any sense of what's coming next or what's the end of the book. And I typically, when I read a book, I go to the last chapter first
Okay.
because I want to see if it's worth reading everything before that
Sure.
to see where it's going to take me. And this time I didn't do that. I just followed you,
Wow.
uh, and it really felt like I was discovering a lot of stuff, important stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but at the time, you don't even know, you know, why is that important or why did this happen?
Yeah.
And as you point out, everything happens for a reason.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and that's a nice lesson to learn.
Yes. And an interesting story out of that, not to share too much of the book, but as we were leaving the day that we were leaving, that we got the message and we actually hit the road, we were driving through Ohio and all of a sudden our tire blows out and we get stuck. So, it's a double lane traffic going this way, double lane traffic coming this way, and we're stuck in the middle lane with traffic going
Mm,
both ways. And so I get out of the car and I'm like, "Ah, we got a flat tire." So I go in the back to change the tire and I discovered that Toyota stopped providing spare tires. My fault for not checking first. I just
yeah.
assumed, but so they come with some little fix a flat kit type of deal and I tried using that and the goo is just coming out of the tire like it was
Yeah.
shredded, so it wasn't doing anything. The really crazy part was whatever we think it was something that flew off of a big rig or something, but it
Mhm.
it must have been a piece of metal or something, but flew through the tire, and then it shot it through the bumper and actually blew a hole in our bumper. And when
Yeah.
we took it to the when we finally got to the place to change the tire, the guy was like, "I've never seen anything like this. This is insane." So, was we're sitting on the side of the road, I'm like, "All right, I guess we're gonna have to call a tow truck." We call a tow truck. They're like, "Okay, they should be there in about an hour." Hour goes by, they're not there. Call them back. We're like, "Oh, we're really busy right now. Should be there in about an hour." Another hour goes by, nothing there. So at this point, it's I think almost 3 o'clock in the morning. We the flat tire happened about 7 o'clock, I believe. And we call and they're like, "Sorry, nobody's coming to help you." And they were like, "You're better off calling the sheriff." So we call the sheriff. They send somebody out. And finally, we get a tow truck, and we were stranded on the side of the road for about 8 hours. But while we were sitting there, the interesting thing was normally I would be very frustrated, very angry. I
Mhm.
used to be a very angry person when I was younger, but I kept getting the message that wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. And so that was very comforting, especially if you're stranded on the side of the road. I guess if
Yeah.
that's where I'm supposed to be, I got to take it for what it is. But what ended up being really cool with that situation was the divine timing of how things unfolded. When we finally got into Wyoming, my wife and I just saw the most beautiful sunset we'd ever seen. Both of us started crying. The music was perfect. It was the first time I think either of us experienced bliss. And so we just really soaked in that moment, and without that delay, we never would have been at that place in that exact moment to have that experience. And when we finally got to the hotel, we were doing some research, and apparently the hotel, or not the hotel, the highway that we were driving on has a moniker of extraterrestrial highway,
Ah.
and it's also going right through mountains that are full of quartz crystal. So it was just the most
Mm.
perfect alignment of everything, the way it worked out, and we are like, okay, we get it now. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was certainly memorable, and I was feeling the frustration with you as as I read through that. I just thought, "Okay, this is a lesson in patience for
yes,
sure."
yes, yes.
You know, it's gotta be. Uh, there's so much in your book, that we could spend hours, so I'm gonna hit some of the things that just struck me,
Sure.
to get some clarification on.
Sure.
Okay. There's mention of a soul recycling machine.
Hmm.
Now, uh, it sounded like that was something mentioned in the first book.
Hmm.
So you referred to it in this book. Could you talk about that a little bit?
So from what I understand, which isn't a ton, I just was
Okay.
briefly told about it. Essentially, the way it was explained to me is there's two lights that people will see when they die. One of them goes towards home, and one of them goes towards this machine. And if you can't decipher between the two, your soul gets recycled back down into Earth. I don't know much more than that about it, other than what I've been told since is that it has been dismantled and no longer exists.
Oh,
So whether you kind of have to take some things with a grain of salt when we don't understand fully what that might mean, or
yeah,
is this a human construct? Is this a something that's beyond human construct? Is it part of the mechanism of Earth? I'm not sure about all that,
yeah.
but yeah, that was mentioned, and that's about as much as I know about it. So
Okay. All right. There's discussion of dimensions. That there are 11 or 12 dimensions, and the one entity that that goes between dimensions with ease is the dragon.
mm,
And I was introduced to some of the background on dragons by my daughter,
mm,
who's written, she's now on her third trilogy, uh, but her second trilogy is all about
oh
dragons.
well,
And so the mythology and the background on dragons seems to have been with us for centuries.
hmm,
So could you talk a little bit about your dragon
sure.
and and what that's meant to you?
Sure. So I actually there's three dragons that I work with. The dragon that is mentioned in the book, his name is Gontus. He's a green dragon, and it was interesting because my wife was actually doing Reiki on me, and while I was in the session, I started to see, when like a seed starts to sprout and it kind of folds over itself
Yeah.
coming out of the ground. That's what it looked like, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of interesting." It just looked like a flower or a plant, sorry, starting to evolve or grow out of the ground. But as this thing continued to grow, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it started to develop wings and turn into this huge green dragon. And it was very interesting because, you think of dragon, you think gruff, like,
Mhm.
monstrous maybe, or whatever you would think of it.
Fire
But
breathing. Yeah.
right. And it reminded me of a puppy. Like, it just had this playful spirit, this playful energy, kind of nudging you, And when I did some research later on it, I found people talking about the same thing, that when the newly hatched dragons, as they say, are often very playful, like puppies. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. They have helped me out, especially the red dragon has helped me in sessions, helped clear energy, helped to raise the vibration, sort of. So when we think of, like, fire is kind of a cleansing, to cleanse energy, and so they have helped me in Reiki sessions and things like that. I haven't had a ton of interactions with them since then. It was kind of an interest. I know they're with me. I know that they help do grid work. So a lot of you're familiar with, like, ley lines and stuff like
Yeah.
that. They help to clear the ley lines and help to clear those up so that positive energy can flow instead of, stagnant or negative energy. So they
Mhm.
kinda ride with me wherever we go and trips and whatnot, so that it kinda helps to raise the vibration of the surrounding area wherever we're at, so
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds, like a great concept, a great thing to have on your team.
for sure.
Uh, I know that I've been able to identify with the help of others that I've got a team of 5 archangels plus Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and, uh, the Christ, uh, but not a dragon.
In due time.
Yeah. Uh, okay, you've had some experience with dark energy and what someone might call an exorcism.
Mhm,
Uh, and one of those is described in the book, but I know that you've had more than one experience with that,
mhm.
and also getting help from not just Raphael, but Michael in certain situations. Could you talk about that a little bit about is that a possession that's going on, that's taking place when there's dark energy within a person? Or do some people just naturally have dark energy with them from birth? Or how's that work?
I would imagine that there's probably some of the latter where you said that maybe people come in with dark energy attached. I would think it's more of an accumulation throughout our lifetime. We go through life and we have our experiences. We run into different energies, different people. We have different emotions that can generate energy. And so I think there's different levels of what you would call maybe a infestation, and then there's, like, attachments, and then I think the more that you allow, or the more you kind of feed the beast, so to speak, the more that that can turn into more of a possession. And so there's different layers to it, as far as I've understood through my experiences, and everybody at some point in their lives is gonna come in contact with some negative energy, or something's gonna attach to them, or they're gonna kinda create it through their own emotions and their own state. So uh, from what I understand, it's kind of I was actually joking with my wife the other day, you remember the old vampire movies, they have to be invited in anywhere,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
think that actually stems from that idea, because they can only go so far as we allow them to, and so
Mhm.
we allow them by, uh making certain agreements, or acting in certain ways, or, allowing certain behaviors to be a part of our life. And so I think that opens doors for them to become more present in our life. And the other part of it, if you don't really know what you're opening yourself up to, there's a lot out there. And so if you're
Yeah.
just saying, "Hey, spirit, come talk to me," well, spirit, we live in duality. There's good and bad. So it can invite in things that maybe people aren't ready for. But I also think that it's a lot of unconscious things that happen. We're not consciously inviting these things in all the time. It's just, being in the presence of it, and then certain things can attach to us. And we have an auric field; those things can attach in our aura, and then they can make their way through as we don't cleanse ourselves or take care of our energy, and that can lead to minor infestations or possessions or whatever it leads to in that sense. And through my experience with clearing those, it's been kind of interesting because, like I said, I've never actually had a Reiki class or done anything like that. It's all been on
Yeah.
the job training with my spirit team and them guiding me, coaching me through experiences. And so one of the experiences, I would call them my battles because of, for lack of a better term. And the light team would always be on the right, and the darkness would always be on the left. And the darkness would take different shapes, different. Sometimes it would look like an ocean, sometimes like a monster, a variety of different ways. And what they would guide me to do is create, for lack of a better term, a light weapon. And one of the most effective would be like creating a tornado of light that just kind of sucks the energy out of somebody. And so that was one of the methods that I've used. And I think the one that you're referring to in the book with a was in my wife's leg was that was a whole nother experience that
Yeah.
I still can't totally comprehend what happened, but I can describe it the best that I remember. And essentially, this was before we really knew how sick she was, but she was having a lot of pain in her body,
Mhm.
and we were having some troubles with family and some other things that were going on at the time too, so I'm sure there were some energies that had made their way into our house and our lives, and this is before we really knew how to protect ourselves. And I was doing a session on her, and she's like, "It's over here, and it's over here." And I'm like, "I know, I can." I wasn't seeing it with my mind's eye; I was seeing it with my physical eyes. Like I could see this thing moving in her
Yeah.
leg, and I was like, "You guys got to help me here." Talking to my spirit team, and so what they showed me to do is I put one hand on her foot and one hand on her lower back, and I kind of just used the energy to guide it down, and I could see it moving down her leg as I kind of pushed it,
Mm.
and I pushed it into my hands, and then it was gone. And so whatever happened there, I'm not exactly sure, but to this day, it fascinates me and it kind of bewilders me at the same time. So
Yeah. Yeah. That would, I don't know, it would feel miraculous and frightening all at the same time.
yes,
I can just picture that.
yes,
Jeez.
yeah.
Okay. Some things that you recommend in the book uh, are diet related.
Mhm.
So maybe you could talk about how you came to the conclusion that these were important things to get out to people that they should know about.
Sure. So, through my experiences with different clients and different messages that I would get, so, stay away from this food, you need to eat more of that,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. And so one day I just asked, how do we know what's good for us, especially in today's world where, we really have no idea what we're eating half of the time. And one really simple way that they broke it down for me that I think is helpful is the primary source of energy in this universe is the sun. We can get direct
Mhm.
energy from the sun. Plants eat that energy and turn it into food, right? So that's the primary source. The secondary source would be plants that are above ground that produce fruit. We can eat those, vegetables that grow above ground. Tertiary source would be vegetables or whatever that grow underground. And then it would be the things that eat those things, so animals.
Mhm.
And then below that would be processed foods and all the stuff that most people eat on a daily basis. And each one of those kind of carries a vibrational frequency. And so if we're trying to raise our vibration, we need to eat higher vibrational foods. So the closer it is to the sun when it's created,
Mhm.
the more high vibration it is. And so it's a lot easier than trying to count calories or look at what ingredients or these sorts of things. It's how
Yeah.
close to the sun was it before you ate it. And so
Yeah.
that kind of just simplifies things in that regard to make it a little easier because it can be hard in this world to navigate what a good diet is.
Mhm.
And the other thing about that is, what's good for me isn't always good for you, and vice versa. Our bodies are unique and we have our own genetic makeups that the human aspect of it. And so some people need to eat meat, some people don't. Some people need a more high fruit and vegetable diet, some people need a more balanced diet. And so what people should really do, in my opinion, is find out what works for them because there's no right answer or wrong
Mhm.
answer. There's a lot of right answers, right? So
Yeah.
everybody's going to have a different makeup and a different diet that suits their constitution the best in that
Yeah.
sense. So,
Yeah, part of what resonated with me is I've been a follower of Edgar Casey for a long time,
Yeah.
and the dietary suggestions that he makes and recommendations, especially around alkaline foods and
Mm,
acid foods, and
sure.
the kind of balance you need there, and typically, move toward the alkaline
Yes. Yeah.
and away from the acid.
Sure.
But again, it's a balance, as you say, and everybody's different.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you'll hear a lot of stories from people who, you know, whether it was because they didn't want to harm animals or they just felt it'd be a better diet or what have you, they go vegan and they end up actually getting a lot more sick and
Yeah,
unhealthy. And so those types of people need some meat in their life. Now, whether it's a lot or a little, balance isn't always 50-50. Balance is finding what's right for you. It could be 90-10. Mostly vegetables and a little bit of meat. And so finding that right balance for you is what's important. And, no two
yeah,
people are going to be the exact same in that regard.
yeah. And I have to say that's one thing that I love about your message and about your book is that everybody's different, and what works for you doesn't work for other people, and it isn't one size fits all.
Sure.
So that there's so many diets out there. It's like, gotta try that, gotta try that.
Sure, sure.
And maybe that's the way to go, is to try them all and see which one works for you.
Yeah,
Uh, but don't just keep hammering on one
right.
if it's not working.
I always like to say there's a lot of different ways to get to the top of a mountain. There's no wrong way, but there's a lot of right
Yeah,
ways. So,
yeah. So I have a karma question.
sure.
If we're always exactly where we're supposed to be when we are there, then how can I mess things up? And why do I need to come back and take care of issues that I didn't resolve in a prior lifetime? I mean, how does how does all that work in terms of karma?
Sure. So, let's back up to before we're born and we're in spirit and
Mhm.
we choose what type of experiences we want to have when we incarnate on earth. And this will help contribute to our soul's evolution, however you want to look at it. And so there's certain experiences that we set up for us to have throughout our lifetime. Now, when those experiences are presented to us, we have the option to learn from it and go through it, or we can disregard it and not learn from it.
Yeah.
And so karma, I think sometimes is misunderstood. Karma means action. And so it's sort of there's action reaction, right? You do something and there's a consequence. Now, consequence isn't negative. It could be positive. It's just
Yeah.
something happens, something else is going to happen. And so karma is better thought of in that sense. So we set up certain experiences that we want to have. If we don't fulfill those experiences, we'll try again in the next life. If you don't pass 12th grade, you try it again. And so I would
Okay.
kind of look at it as each sort of karmic lesson is sort of our advancing through the grade system. And so if we don't learn this certain lesson, it may take one lifetime, it may take 10. And so we'll keep repeating that lesson until we get it. And it's not uh, a being that's controlling this and saying, "Well, you didn't make it. You got to do it again." It's us saying, "Hey, I want to get this right, so let me try this again in this lifetime, or let me try it
Yeah.
again in this meat suit, as I call it."
Okay, so let's talk about lifetimes,
Sure.
because when I was growing up and was introduced to Casey and reincarnation and getting a sense of lifetimes, I always felt that was a linear process.
Mm,
But as I've grown in my own spiritual evolution, I have come to understand that it's everything everywhere all at once.
mhm,
So if I'm experiencing multiple lifetimes at one time, uh, and I happen to be in this one with you, but I'm also living some other ones in other situations.
mhm.
Uh, how does that growth happen? And I've come to gain some understanding about if I heal something in this lifetime, I've healed it across lifetimes.
Correct.
So I guess my question is, what is reincarnation?
Okay.
I
Great
mean,
question.
Am I am I coming back, or am I just doing it all at the same time, and therefore it's everything is now?
Yes. So time is a construct of the third dimension. And so we've created time to sort of have this experience so that we can have the experience of past, present, future. Although, as you said, everything
Mhm,
is happening now. In spirit, there is no time. Everything is now. Everything has happened simultaneously. One of the best ways that they explained it to me, that I think if anybody's ever played a video game, on the disc of the video game, everything is there. The whole entire world is there. All the people are there. Everything is already built, and you can go in and experience that in a million different ways. But it's still the same. Everything, every possible outcome, everything has already been determined to some degree within that game, right? You can turn left, you can turn
mhm,
right, whatever you want to do. And so within that, we can have different experiences. I want to experience what it was like to be a peasant in the 1500s, or I want to experience what it was like to be a king in this time, so that we can have different experiences as far as the way that the world is going to present itself to us and give us different perspectives so that we can learn from those different uh, lessons that we set up for ourselves. And so, as our soul remains in spirit, the greater majority of it, it can fractal off into many different human experiences within this realm. And that's why you get so many people who, in my first book, it said I was Johann Sebastian Bach, and there's people, tons of people who are Mary Magdalene or this.
mhm.
It's because we're all having that same experience at the same time. As you go up the chain, eventually it all leads back to source, and there is only one thing. There is no separation between you and I. But source created that experience of separation to have these different lessons that we can go through, to have this experience of forgetting what it's like to know everything, what it's like to not be able to do everything, having limitation. And so that's what we come here to experience, is that limitation, and to be able to learn through those things. And one of the best examples that they gave me is, it's one thing, you could read a recipe for a cake and you could know everything about it and how to build it, and or put it
Mhm.
together, whatever. But until you actually mix the batter and you feel it on your fingers and you taste it and you smell it baking in the oven, you're not really going to know what a cake is. You can conceptualize it based on the
Mm.
ingredients and the process, but until you actually live it and do it, that's a whole different experience. So we're coming here to actually experience what those things are. We conceptually understand them, but to be able to come and experience it. And I think that a lot of people going through a spiritual journey, a spiritual awakening, have a similar experience on earth, where they get a lesson, they conceptually understand it, but now it's time to apply it. And that obviously happened a lot in the book, where it was like, here's a lesson for you to experience. Now prove that you learned it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully that answered pretty much your question about the reincarnation.
All right. So we are here as fractals of the Creator,
Mhm.
and we are here to experience many different things. And our free will helps us decide yes to an experience, no to an experience as we move through this.
Mhm.
So, is this a way the Creator experiences what Creator typically would like to experience? Like we are, to use the Christian metaphor, the hands and feet of God.
Mhm.
Does that mean that the Creator is learning things that the Creator was unaware of prior to our experiencing them for Creator?
Well, I won't speak for the creator, but I will say my my understanding is that it's the experience. You can understand it conceptually, you can understand and you can know exactly what's going to happen throughout the lifetime, but to actually have the experience of going through it is what's unique about Earth. And this experience is, we are able to feel the emotions, we're able to have the thoughts, we're able to have the free will, we're able to make our own decisions, good, bad, or indifferent. And that is the whole experience of, we come here, we forget everything, and then it's our job to remember who we truly are. And that's the whole ascension and awakening process, is to remember our true divinity.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of what I like to say is, we like to play games, right? And we like to have fun because that's something challenging, it's something different and something new. And so I don't think that it's anything different with the creator. We're an aspect of him. So why wouldn't he want to have those same experiences? Why wouldn't he want to have those that feeling of limitation and overcoming that limitation? And so I think it's just sort of maybe a game is a better way to look at it, is we're here for a giant game just to have experiences and to collect those experiences and be able to ascend through that process.
Yeah. Okay. I want to take us back to someone I recently interviewed, Barbara With, and she's channeled Einstein
Mm,
from the afterlife, and also what she calls the Party of 12, which is a collective. And she talks about the fact, uh, and this information is coming from Einstein, that at the center of the earth is molten lava on the one hand and a black hole on the other.
mm,
And it's sort of the yin and yang of life. We've got the dark and the light,
mhm,
and that this confluence of the two creates the electromagnetic field that we all live in, and we're all part of this electromagnetic field.
mhm,
And that the source of life on Earth is from Earth's core.
mm.
And that kind of blew me away
Yeah.
as I tried to process these thoughts and thinking about, okay, does this resonate with me? And then she got a number of physicists to confirm that they also believe that there's a black hole at the center of the Earth,
Mhm,
because it's the only way that gravity exists and this electromagnetic field that we're all part of,
mhm,
and our toric field
mhm,
is part of that. So rather than this entity out here, first of all, it's in here instead,
sure.
right? But its source is the center of the earth.
Mm.
So I don't know if any of that resonates with you or your thoughts about that, but I wanted to put that out there as, how's that feel to you?
Um, so what I would say, and one of the best advice that I've gotten from my spirit guides and team is that they said a long time ago, don't come to any hard conclusions about anything. We as humans can only have a concept so far and
Yeah,
understand so much.
right.
And the other part of that I would say is we live in a multiverse. We live in where everybody is a creator of their own reality. We have our shared experiences and a shared creation, and we also have our individual experiences. So for me to say that what you understand of anything is wrong wouldn't be
Yeah,
an accurate statement. And so it very well could be in her creation of Earth that that's exactly what it is. And in my creation of Earth, what I understand is that there's a giant crystal in the center of the Earth. So whether that's right or wrong, or it's just right for me and right for her, I would lean
yeah,
more towards that. And so I think that's one of the interesting things about when we study history. And one of the things that always I joke about is, you know, we get so caught up on the dates and the generals' names and whatever it was and all that.
mhm,
That's not what's important. What's important is the lesson. And all of these things could be happening simultaneously in multiple different timelines where this person went left here and this person went right there, and then the whole story is different, the times are different, the dates, the people, whatever it is, but the lessons are the same. And so when we try to come to hard conclusions about what this is or what this isn't, I think that it just creates a lot of anxiety within ourselves trying to understand something that we really don't have the capability to
yeah,
understand. And so but
right,
I think they try to break it down in ways that make sense to us at the time in our uh, evolution. So again, when they said don't, take anything and come to any hard conclusions about stuff, as we progress through our consciousness levels, we're going to see things from different perspectives. And I always say it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat. In spirit, things are both simultaneously true and false because there is
mhm,
no time there. So at one point in your life, something wasn't true, but as you progressed, it became true, or vice versa. And so I think that we get things that make sense to us that we can allow to sort of build on that foundation to get to that next step. Now, it may be true to us at this time, but as we look back and say, I see what they were trying to get at, I see where they were leading me with this information. And so I would interpret it that way. That would be my best
Yeah.
understanding of it rather than trying to. I'm no scientist. I've never been to the center of the earth, so I can't say one way or the other. But
Yeah.
that would be my best understanding.
Yeah. In fact, Einstein said, some things are better left a mystery
Sure.
and just let it be a mystery.
Yes.
Okay. Palo Santo. Uh, as a as a Reiki master, uh, the people I work with and what I learned uh, was to always use sage to clear the room. And I recently heard an interview that you did where you explained the difference
Hmm.
between Palo Santo and using sage. And so I'd like you to throw your recommendation out around that and why
Sure.
you use what you use. Uh, just because I know a lot of Reiki masters listen to the show. So,
Oh, great. So I would say sage is a fantastic way to clear energy. Don't get me wrong. Palo Santo is a great way. There are different uses for them. My cautionary tale with sage is that so what happens when you sage is it clears all the energy out of a room. But what it does is it leaves a vacuum, and that vacuum is going to be filled with something.
yeah.
So if you do use sage, just replace that energy with something positive, a prayer or some rose scent or something to that effect that's going to replace that energy and not leave a void because a void's going to be filled by something.
Mm,
And so if there's something negative waiting in the winds, it's going to fill that space. And Palo Santo, what it does is actually transmute. So it does both. It clears and it creates that positive reaction. And so that's the reason that I choose Palo Santo. Plus, I like the smell a little bit better than sage.
yeah.
But sage is a perfectly adequate resource as long as you're doing something to replace the energy that it's clearing out of there.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. That was new to me. I was happy to read that you use the pendulum
Mm,
in your Reiki practice,
hmm.
uh, because that's something that I've always done,
Hmm.
and I find it a good physical way to show people their energy balance and what's working and what's not
Sure.
working in a before and after. Uh, but you came to Reiki without any formal training.
Hmm.
So when did you incorporate the pendulum, or how did you get that instruction and why?
So my mentor that I worked with, who I wrote the first book with, she
Now
had
that was Linda?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
Linda. She was the lady who gave my wife her attunement when she went through the Reiki. She was the
Mm,
synchronicities that led us to all these things. She did the past life regressions. She's a fantastic human and helped us tremendously on our path. And we would meet. I would say it was once or twice a week when I was doing the channeling sessions, and we would sit beforehand and kind of discuss things that were coming through, messages we were getting, or stuff that we wanted to talk about for the channeling sessions.
yeah.
And she had used pendulums, and so I just kind of started to play around with them and see
Mm,
what they could do. And she kind of had mentioned, I don't know if it was her or other people that I had met along the way, but how you could use them to kind of test the chakras to see which way they were spinning, how well they're spinning, if they're spinning at all, if they need to be
right.
cleared, what have
Yeah.
you. And so I just started to kind of pick it up and just as more I honestly I don't use them anymore because I've kind of got to the point where I realized that when I do the session, they're going to take care of all of that stuff for me. And it's almost like I'm checking their work. It's like, who am I to check their work? Right. So that's kind of where I've gotten to with it. I know
Yeah.
that calling in like Archangel Metatron, he can help balance the chakras. And so I just trust that he does what he's supposed to
Right.
do. And I don't need to go back and double check. But it is, like you said, it's interesting to be able to show people, if they're curious on, look, this one's not,
Right. Yeah.
something that's visible, tangible that they can look at and say, okay, that's, I can't see my chakras, but I can see that this is obviously interacting in a certain way and it changes based on
Right.
which one's open or flowing properly. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I find I don't do it for me anymore. I do it for the client,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, just so that they could understand what the energy's doing.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have all these pages of questions and notes, and we're running out of time, so I'm going to
Okay,
try to
no worries.
try to just cut to the chase here.
Sure.
All right, volume 3, the Ascension Guide. Now, my understanding, I guess, from watching you do another interview, is that you pretty much had all 3 of these conceptualized uh, before they came out, even though they came out in a sequence. Uh, and then this book, in book 2, you talk about book 3,
Mhm,
and that, you're working on that and it's coming out.
mhm.
Uh, so tell me about book 3 a little
Sure.
bit.
So, through our experiences, when my wife got sick, she ended up getting cancer. We did everything holistically. We were able to get rid of that for her. And through our journey of helping ourselves, helping her, helping other people, we just started to pick up methods that worked and things that we were taught that we applied and we were getting results from. So I just started to create my own guide for myself of that's where the food, the light
Yeah,
and the energy, and so I just started compiling all these different things. And then I started to realize, like, well, this could be really helpful for somebody who doesn't know where to start. A lot of people in this realm, unfortunately, we outsource our healing to doctors and other
yeah,
people who, God bless them, who hopefully they're doing what they're claiming they do. I'm not so sure. But so I just wanted to have something where if somebody didn't know anything, or even if you knew a little bit, or maybe you didn't have all of the, your blind spots covered, that you could take this guide and start to influence your own health and take back that power to yourself. Things that you could do, that you could practice on your own, that you don't need to go see somebody else, that you could start to feel those changes within your own body just by meditating or doing certain types of yoga or certain breath techniques, eating different foods, taking care and cleansing your energy, because there's people that understand this part but not this part. And this is coming from myself because I didn't know, so I wanted to have my own blind spots covered.
mm.
And I get it a little intense when I learn new things. I go, full force into
Yeah,
things, and I'm obsessed. So I wanted to turn that into something that people could use, something that was practical. So as I was writing, the first book was completely separate. That was um I would say 8 months it was published before this ever happened. And but as I was writing this book, I was kind of compiling the things that I had learned also within to start creating that book. And so I just decided I would release them both at the same time to try to, help people in as many different ways as possible.
yeah. So that book, if I read that book, I would know what you know.
I would say more or less, at least as far as maybe not so much in the esoteric realm or things that have come through in since then. But I think that's a great starting point for a lot of people to, get their foot in the door and understand and, apply it and see if it works for you. Because like I
Yeah.
said, no, there's no one way to do this. There's no one way to the top. So we have a lot of different ideas. You can use them and see if they work for you. These are things that have worked for me. And, as a guide, as they say, that's why it's called
Mhm.
the Ascension Guide, is, a guide knows a way. It's not the only way, but this is
Yeah.
a way that worked for me. And I'm turning around showing you the path that worked for me and worked for people that we've helped. And so if those things can help other
Yeah.
people on their path, then I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
All right. At the end of this book, I'm still left with a concern for you financially. And I guess I want to know the rest of the story. Are you doing all right now?
Um, so financially not the greatest, admittedly, but we started to learn that when everything's stripped away from you and all you have left is to look for something greater than yourself, and we turned outwards and we put our faith in God to lead us to where we're supposed to be in every moment. And so I know that it's going to everything that happened along that journey happened for a reason. Yes, we were left with mountains of debt through that whole process, and it's still there. But I do see the progression of where this is going to go and the lessons that we learn through that,
Yeah.
and how um, our faith has been created through that. And one of the things that happened, I'm not sure if it's in this book or not. I can't remember. I haven't read it in a while. But I actually had somebody who I hadn't worked with in years, hadn't seen in years. We were sitting there going over our bills, like, how are we going to pay for this? And we go to the grocery store, come back, and this lady's on our street. And I live on a cul-de-sac, so you don't accidentally end up there. And I come upstairs, and she's walking up my pathway, and she's just kind of shaking and handing me an envelope. And she was like, I was told I have to give this to you. It was the exact amount of money that we needed to pay our bills the day that we're questioning,
Mm.
sitting there wondering how we're going to pay our bills. And somebody shows up at our doorstep with cash.
Yeah.
And so it was just one of those things where it's like, if we just trust the process and know that everything is going to be taken care of, the same way a bird doesn't worry about if there's going to be worms out there, they know
Right.
that they go do what they're supposed to do and they'll get what they need. And so I think that was a big experience for us, and there was plenty of other experiences that happened throughout our life that
Yeah.
have shown us that if we just trust and do what we're supposed to do, everything will be taken care of and work itself out the way that it's supposed to. So
Yeah.
I have great faith that it will all be worth it and be for a purpose in the
Everything.
end. So
Well, it's interesting, and it sounds like you're twin flames, you and Jen,
mm,
because to to be able to go through life with you sounds like it could be pretty challenging
yes, yes,
unless you're totally on board.
yes.
So kudos to Jen.
Oh, she's
I'll,
fantastic.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Uh, I say that from experience because I'm married and I've always been a believer that the universe will provide.
Mm,
And it's just proven itself over and over and over again
hmm.
that I have no idea where the money's come from, and it appears
Yes.
when it's needed. And I've lived long enough to know and just accept that I have no financial worries.
Right.
I don't have a lot of money, and I had no idea how I was going to pay for this podcast when I started it.
hmm.
Uh, but the money comes when it's needed,
Hmm.
and it's never more than I need,
Right.
but it's always
Yeah.
what I need. So I, I felt for you as I read through the book and thought, it is just faith. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's been proven to us time and time again in different experiences. And I feel that what it's led me to is I don't think about tomorrow. I don't think about 5 minutes from now. I'm always
Yeah.
present. And I just know that when I do what I'm supposed to do, everything will take care of itself. And so when we live in the present, anxiety lives in the future. We're trying to
Right.
think ahead. And so if we're living there and we're constantly worrying or wondering, all we're doing is repelling those things.
Mhm.
And so when we just allow and we just flow through life the way we're supposed to, then everything that we need is always taken care of. Like you said, it's not always what we want, but it's what we need in the time. And I think that as we progress through those lessons and those challenges, that we will get to a point where we get what we want also on top of that. So, but also from that same standpoint, we as humans really don't know what we need or what we truly want a lot of
Yeah.
times. Or we think
Right.
we want something and we find out that that's not exactly what we were looking for. So I think that being stripped down bare, pardon me, was part of that journey that gets us to that level of faith and that level of knowing that everything is going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that when we went to Rwanda for 7 months, and we sold our cars and we sold our house, and we gave away or sold all our belongings and just went off to Africa. And,
Yeah.
uh, it was so worth it
Yeah.
just to strip yourself of all those things and understand what you don't need
Yeah.
that's in your life.
And one of the fascinating things that I took, and you actually have the book here, The Autobiography of a Yogi, one of the passages they talk about, they're going to a certain city and he brings the man along and he's wondering about how we're going to eat and we're going to have a
Yeah.
place to stay and all this stuff. And that was kind of my journey as well, is You don't go, you don't ask, you just go and do what you're supposed to do, and you just watch how things happen. People offer you a place to stay, people offer you a meal, people offer you this or want to help in this way, and it's like, wow, it's just incredible how it does work when you have that faith. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the lessons that Christ taught,
yeah,
that, uh, with the disciples, don't worry about it. Just go out there.
right.
You'll get what you need.
And he hasn't been wrong yet. So,
Yeah. Well, this has been great. We're running out of time. And at the end of each podcast, I always give the guests the opportunity to leave the audience with a few words of wisdom.
sure.
I know you've got tons of them. So,
Yeah,
just with this particular group, this is your chance to leave them with a few words.
sure. So I think the biggest thing is to have that faith and know that you're on the right path. And sometimes we want to feel like we're behind or we need to be doing more or we need to be doing this or XYZ. Follow whatever your passion is in the moment. Be present and don't worry so much about the future and just allow life to unfold the way that it's supposed to. And when we do that, it's a lot easier to jump in a river and just allow it to take you wherever it's taking you rather than trying to swim upstream, unless you're a salmon, but we're not. So, but in that sense, we just allow life to happen and we just flow through life. And when we stop to see things as good or bad, we just see them as is. And our perception of that is what creates our reality. So if we perceive this as something bad, then it'll be something bad. If we see this as an opportunity to grow, then it'll be an opportunity to grow. And so if as we reflect on our life and we go back to our worst day, which has happened multiple times, because the first day it might have been you stubbing your toe, and then the second day it's you losing your house or a family member or whatever. Our worst day continually changes.
Yeah.
Well, we can always look back and see that it got better. The sun came out the next day. It got a little bit better. And so when we have that time to reflect on that and see that, and even in like when I lost my job and my wife lost her career, it was like our one of our worst days of our lives, right? But looking back, it was one of the greatest blessings we could have ever had. The way that everything unfolded and the way that our lives changed, the way that it gave us the opportunity to become who we are. It ended up being one of the best days of my life. And so really
Yeah.
when I look at it from this perspective, it's totally different than when it's like, I'm getting it
Right.
walking out the door with no job and not knowing what's going to happen. So I think that that would be my best advice is to look at everything as just is. It's an opportunity for the next part of your evolution, the next part of your growth. And so when we label it as good, bad, or indifferent, then that's our perception based on our limited human understanding. But when we understand that everything happens for us and not to us, then it changes our perspective and we can navigate through life a little bit easier through those
Yeah.
challenges.
So, two things. One, uh, I'd like you to give the audience a way that they can contact you if they want to partake of your services.
Sure.
And two, I would like you to say, what are those services?
Yeah. So the first part would be you can go to our website, ascensionhealings.com. You can sign up for a session through there. It also has our contact information if you want to get in contact with us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all those different things. Um, and what we offer, one of the things is the Reiki energy healing. My wife and I do it together. So it's kind of a masculine, feminine blend of energy. So that's kind of unique. We also do the quantum healing hypnosis technique, which is a profound healing method that we've seen some incredible miracles already in the short time that we've been doing it. I also do spiritual coaching to kind of help people get on their path to make sure that, if they have any questions that they want answered. Sometimes this is a lonely road that is traveled, and you feel. My wife and I, at one point, we thought we were the only people in the world going through this, and so it's nice when you have other people who have experience and have been down their path, and they can, kind of help guide you on that as well. So I offer that service as well. We do sound bowl healing meditations. We do lots of different events around the greater Pittsburgh area. So our events are listed on our website as well. So if you guys want to come and say hi at an event, then we'd be more than happy to have a nice conversation with you.
Okay. Well, audience, as always, take what you've heard and whatever resonates with you, incorporate it into your life, put the rest on a shelf until you're ready to deal with it. And until next time, this has been your spiritual journey.